IZU Anioma, how encompassing, how overreaching, how reaching was IZU Anioma in the evolution of politics of Anioma?
In the evolution of identity politics, not partisanship politics. I would say it started much earlier. The watershed year is 1956 at Amai, where the Anioma nation came together in Anioma Convention, and that was when we started coalescing together. And part of the reasons why they agreed to come together, because the elders felt that Anioma is a very small entity. You have the Urhobos, you have the Chekiris, you have the Ishans, you have the Benis, and you have the Igbos. That if we don't come together, that there's every possibility that they will just wipe us off. So the first real leader of Anioma nation is Right Honorable Osadebe. And in fact, it was Osadebe that coined the name Anioma with a lot of other leaders. And after Osadebe handed over to Senator Nosik Ikpo in a ceremony that was held at the Technical College Abo in 1980. And then after Ikpo, it was Amadi Emina, the late Amadi Emina, who died suddenly in a motor accident. That was the leader. And from Amadi Emina, it became Dr. George Orewa. And after George Orewa, he handed over to Ozier. It was while Ozier was in charge and they were coming to the villa that I was recruited into IZU Anioma, or shall I say, co-opted. Colonel Okwechime came to visit my boss, Alhaji Kashim Ibrahim Imam. Alhaji Kashim Ibrahim Imam was the guy that coordinated Abiola's election. We met in Unilag in PhD class. He fell in love with me, came to visit me at home. He said I'm a patriot. And so that he was the one that recruited me. Even when I had other options, like my uncle, Peter Okocha, wanted me to work directly with him, with the vice president, but I just got hooked with Alhaji Kashim Ibrahim Imam. So I joined IZU Anioma. And I remember one very important visit on the 20th of March, 2003. We went to the villa. Before we went to the villa in strategizing, particularly with our Royal Majesties Obuzo working hand in hand with Ozier and a couple of other people, they agreed that the best thing for Anioma to do strategically was to adopt the ticket of Obasanjo and Atiku. So when we got to the villa, the moment Chief Ozier read that communique, our speech, and he sat down, something untoward happened. Our member then, Prince Ned Nwoko, who represents us, suddenly stood up and started speaking above the head of the president of IZU Anioma, as if he was critiquing the speech that he read. I felt that something was wrong. So as a young man then, I raised my hand. And luckily, Obasanjo recognized me. And he said, "Young man, who are you?" I said, "Yes, I am an SA in the presidency." He said, "Who are you with?" I said, "I'm with Alhaji Kashim Ibrahim Imam." He said, "Oh, you are as tall as him. You have his guts. I hope you have his brain. Tell us what you want to tell us." I said that the honorable member, Prince Nwoko, is in breach of our Anioma traditional and constitutional protocol. Then anywhere we go, once the president has spoken, Anioma has spoken, until we meet again and review it, that all he's saying is not part and parcel of what we agreed to say. That what the president told you is what Anioma has agreed to say. He asked every delegate. I remember Oka, the former SSG, was part of that delegation. I remember that Gidis was part of that delegation. And then all the traditional rulers, Ofulue, Zemeka. I met my classmate then, Kikachuku from Obolono. He was just newly installed as a traditional ruler. There was the Obuzo of Iguzo, there's the Amai man, all of them, you know. They told Obasanjo, yes, what he is telling us is the truth. That is how we do it. So the president asked Prince Ned to sit down, and nobody listened to him again. But it was so nice when he came out. He thanked me for what I did. And that was what sold me into IZU Anioma. In fact, I sat down with Orewa for over 4 or 5 hours. He gave me the history and he encouraged me to continue along that line. So we continued. 3 months after that meeting, about July, Chief Asiodu, as the chairman, brought the creme de la creme of all Anioma sons to do constitutional review and to articulate a policy direction for Anioma. Part of that agreement was that the political class would work under the policy direction of IZU Anioma, and that IZU Anioma should be registered at the Corporate Affairs Commission. Because of that point in time, IZU Anioma was not registered. I have that document prepared by 29 prominent sons of Anioma, made up of Chief Asiodo as chairman, Fortune Ebie as his vice. There were about 4 generals. There was Okija, there was Rear Admiral Okija, there was Major General Luciade, there was the man from Iseluku, Chijuka. He was there. There were about 4 professors, but I remember Chekwe, I remember Otome. All the groups were represented. Ndoka National Union represented, Onueka was represented, Onu Anioma was represented, Anyi Bofu was represented. All the groups, including Alban, Ofili, they were there. Now, Colonel Okwechime made sure that IZU Anioma was registered at the Corporate Affairs when he took over from Ozier. And I was the one, as a political advisor, that advised them, because part of that speech that they wrote, they were somewhere that IZU Anioma said that the airport they are building in Oba will have multiplier impact in the industrialization of Anioma. So when I had finished my local reception for Mwaboshi, as the ICDU president then in Abuja, it was so successful that when we finished the ceremony, an Okowa acolyte, who is my cousin, called me that he's just coming out of Okowa's house in Abo. They had their strategy session, that they are wondering, why is it that suddenly the whole of Igbuzo cream de la cream, the professors, the traditional ruler, the ambassadors are just supporting Nwaoboshi. That Igbuzo is preparing Nwaoboshi to be governor in 2015. They accused me of being the one Igbuzo is using to do that. I said, no, we are just doing town union to recognize our son. Now, I went to Senator Peter Nwaoboshi and I said, this small thing that I did, look at what my cousin is telling me, that the Okowa camp is reacting. And Okowa camp went ahead to form Anioma political front. They held a big ceremony in St. Patrick's College as a way of countering the prominence of, so-called prominence of Senator Peter Nwaoboshi. But what I did was that I told him that I can do a paper that Anioma can honor Uduaha because of the airport. Because anywhere in the world that you build an international airport, there's what we call a rotropolis, where about 40-mile radius will be a master planned territory. And that is the heartland of Anioma that will encompass both Aniocha, Itu Aniocha Oshimili, part of Ikan, part of Ndokwa. So I told IZU Anioma that there is need for us to be part and parcel of preparing that master plan, that we need to honor Uduaha and thank him for doing that. The chairman of the party then told me to write the blueprint. I wrote the blueprint. I sent it to Esewezie. I still have the receipt. Esewezie, the present chairman of Oshimili North, was PA then. In fact, when he received it, he shouted, all this 30-page document just for a reception. I said, well, that is part 1. That we have part 2 and part 3. So IZU Anioma met, adopted it, agreed to pay courtesy call then on prominent Anioma sons. I was part of the delegation that went to Okowa's office. Then he was the secretary to the government. He told us in his speech, why don't we, that IZU Anioma is a cultural body, why don't we use Anioma, his group, to honor the governor? I raised my hand and I was recognized. I told him, sir, can we start with the definition of culture? Culture is a holistic way of life of the people. Culture is how you lead, culture is how you dance, culture is how you farm, culture is how you marry, culture is how you do all your festivities. That is what IZU Anioma approximates. It has a long history from Osadebe coming back now. It is registered at the Corporate Affairs Commission. That your group, Anioma Political Forum, that has Baris Onwade then as secretary, is just a sub-partisan group of PDP, and it's not the aggregation of Anioma people. To all fairness, he agreed with us and said we were going to use IZU Anioma. And indeed, he came to IZU Anioma secretariat, and we used to sit together, and the money came from the political class, and we did it, the Anioma Salute to Duaga. Then after that, the Anioma Salute to Duaga stuff, Anioma Congress emerged as a result of the squabbling between His Royal Majesty Asaba and then Okwechime. And it was alleged that Okwechime was not carrying all the Anioma people together. But strategically, there was need to form Anioma Congress, a body that would really fight for the governorship of Anioma. And then it continued like that. I remember that when we were fighting for the Anioma governorship stuff, General Labi Sama came on board. It so happened that within IZU Anioma, the radical group from which I belong wanted Colonel Okwechime to leave because he had done his 4-year tenure, and we felt that it was good if we take the presidency of Anioma to Ndokwa, because they've never been president. We felt that if Ndokwa is not president, it will not all go well for Anioma, since we're going for external fight. So I was sent around and I consulted all the traditional rulers. Particularly, I was using Kikachuku, traditional ruler of Ubuluno, who is my classmate. And they did some consultations, the way our ancients used to do it. And they told me, yes, Colonel Okwechime will go, but the man who will come, when he breathes, the whole nation will shake. And I was wondering, who is that person in IZU Anioma? Is it Ambassador Mono? Is it Chief Usonyawa? Is it Moka? Who will be the president that the whole nation will shake? So coincidentally, General Labi Sama, who has not been part and parcel of Anioma for a very long time, having been away overseas, wanted to meet some prominent Anioma sons, some activists. And Honorable Okpabe from Otabono, his second cousin, recommended me. And he said, Philip is forthright, Philip is straightforward, Philip is a politician, he's not corrupt. I would like you to meet Philip. On 2 occasions he came to Asaba, I couldn't meet him. Then suddenly I met him with my friend, Honorable Hilary Nwokolo. When I met him, he was with Okechukwu from Okwane, he was with Tony Ndanenu, and 1 or 2 other people. So we got into discussion. When I realized it was General Labi Sama, I held my head. I said, oh my God, I would have found time. Oh, your book is on top of my head, 600-page book, Tragedy of Victory, the best primary source document on the Civil War. So we started discussing the book. Now I told him that there is something you didn't write, General, that you wrote. You did not explicitly state that you recovered all the oil wells from Biafra and handed it over to Nigeria, because that was what Gowon told you, that go there and be the chief of staff, the chief strategist, draw up the war plan with General Akinriade and liberate the oil-producing areas. That was what he did. Before he got to the war front, they had liberated, Akinriade had liberated Bonny, Adekunle, who is the head of the 3rd Marine Commando, had liberated Calabar. But when he came, he presented a very uncommon strategy, that they were going to attack Port Harcourt from Obubra in Cross River. And they attacked Port Harcourt, liberated the whole of Obubra, the whole of Oron. Even at Ikotek Bene, it was a master plan they did. The Biafran colonel, who was his boss, did not understand the strategy he was using. They liberated the whole of that area. And in what the British journalists who came called the Scorpion strategy, they liberated Port Harcourt. So I told him, you didn't write it. He said, no, some World Bank scholars, about 52, had come, reviewed the book. There is a master plan. But what you're saying indicates that you even know more than them. Then along the line of our discussion, he said that he was acting governor under Osadebe. And I remembered what Kikachuku told me. And we were looking for somebody from Ndokwa that will be president. And in my excitement, I told him, you're the next president of IZU Anioma, prepare. He said no, he wasn't going to be, that he doesn't even understand the language. And he's been away for a long time. I said, don't worry, I will be there for you. We will be there for you. We need somebody like you, so that when you speak on behalf of Anioma, our people from the oil-producing area, the Core Delta area, will shake. And that is what your mother told you, because I read it in his book, that the mother told him that you have to go and help your people. So he said he wasn't going to do it. And we started calling all the big Anioma activists from Ndokwa, Professor Kecha, Onyekwelu, Tilije, all of them put pressure on him. Chief Ebinum from his place, who is late now, who is like a father to him, Chief Moka, all of them put pressure on him. Emeka Mado, all of them from Okpanam here. And he called me after about 48 hours. Young man, come, oh, this your Mbokbulu, because I told him I was going to use Mbokbulu strategy. It's working, no. You're a dangerous customer. And to all intent and purpose, what our sages saw in terms of that a great man was going to come and that there will be trouble and that he will solve it for us, happened in January 2014 when the SSG Macaulay, you know, in a newspaper interview, lambasted Anioma, that Anioma was not going to be governor. General called me and he said, Philip, who is that Macaulay? Doesn't he know I am the general? I want to consult all the Anioma politicians. Who do you recommend, or who do we recommend? I said, let's see the chairman of the party. He has a passion for Anioma governor. And he said, no, let's do all the analysis. Then I started the analysis. I said, Dr. Okowa wants to be governor. He's from Eka. Dr. Kubo wants to be governor. Dr. Cairo wants to be governor. The former acting governor Obi wants to be governor. The former PAMSEC wants to be governor. That's Obu wants to be governor. In Aniocha, you have Professor Monye, he wants to be governor. Elueme wants to be governor. The speaker wants to be governor. In Asaba, Olejeme wants to be governor. In Ndokwa, there is this former commissioner for works from Ndokwa X wants to be governor. I can't remember his name now. Then the member of the House of Assembly from Ndokwa, he said it's enough. Let's go and see Mwaboshi. He gave me time. I told Mwaboshi, we drove to Mwaboshi's house. In that meeting, I was with the current president of IZU Anioma, immediate past president, Dr. Oje. There was a discussion, denunciation of who the hell is Macaulay between the two leaders. And suddenly, my boss asked him, General, are you willing to sign a document on behalf of Anioma Nation that will be published full page, lambasting or arguing the point of view of Anioma? He said, yes. Cut off my finger, give it to Philip. Then after signing, I trust him. He will give it back to me. And he just told me, go and meet all your researchers, do all the paperwork, I will fund. And then we published that document on the 29th of January. And the day it was published, it was a bomb blast. It was God's anointed. It was like one of the best papers according to Senator Ikbo, who called me. Philip, this paper is the best paper. I know your language. I know you have a hand in it. I said, yes. General contributed a lot to it. It was the philosophical direction of Mwaboshi that I work with, because I know how he thinks, you know, that led to it. The argument we presented in that paper is that Anioma have eminent sons who can lead the world. And we gave 85 names of prominent sons Anioma. I remember that paper because we asked, who among these eminent sons of Anioma will this nation, Nigeria, not entrust with leadership? Should it be you, the tribal Alamis and Jingoist, Macaulay, that should be given power? That will give you 7 days to apologize or you face the wrath of Anioma Nation. That was the ending of the talk. So Macaulay started calling to apologize. And I have the pictures of myself, General Macaulay, and Pharmacist Enebeli when he came to apologize. And we made up. And General only told him, look, if Anioma fails to become governor, I will hold you responsible. And he said no, that we misunderstood him, that he's friendly with Anioma people, that his mother is even from Ndokwa area and all that stuff. And that was how it went. So in that particular paper, which is like the best paper ever written by any Anioma group, eulogizing the capacity of Anioma sons, it was funded by Senator Peter Mwaboshi. And another thing happened. While Okowa emerged, and we were preparing for the reception for Okowa, I moved the motion. Because on that same day that we met, General met Mwaboshi in his house, Senator Mwaboshi in his house. And he told Mwaboshi that on behalf of IZU Anioma, traditional rulers, everybody, we beseech you to ensure that the ticket, PDP gubernatorial ticket 2015, is given to an Anioma son. That the moment that is done, Anioma is made. And Mwaboshi worked hard. Few days to the primaries, on that last night, he called a meeting. But coincidentally, Mwaboshi used his clout of uniting Anioma to call the meeting. But before that time, on the other hand, because of maybe rivalry, Senator Okowa was the one that was equally fighting against Nwaoboshi. You remember when we were trying to use IZU Anioma to honor Oduaga in his office, he suggested that we use his own political group. If we had used his own political group, maybe Nwaoboshi would not have been strong enough at the point in time when the governor then moved on to support a Devie for Nwaoboshi to call that meeting, to have the clout to call the meeting in his house, and they supported Okowa, and Okowa won. And I remember that one of the best journalists you have in Nigeria, from Akuku Igbo, he wrote that he was there, and Nwaoboshi said to him that today we will teach Uduaga some lesson, that Anioma must produce Okowa. It was published in the papers that he was there. He interviewed Nwaoboshi right at the venue of the occasion. So we glorify God that it was possible for Anioma to emerge. But unfortunately, the policy direction for Anioma, as prepared by Asiodo and Chief Asiodo, Philip Asiodo, and Fortune Ebie, was not implemented by Okowa. Part of that policy direction was that Anioma will have a hall, Anioma will have a library, what we call the Center of Civilization. And in carrying out that policy, General donated a hall.